The sobriety of truth is the refusal to sugarcoat reality. It's the commitment to speak what is real, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how unpopular. When we talk about relationships, especially when we talk about whether a man truly values a woman, we're not dealing with fluff. We're not talking about casual feelings or passing emotions. We're talking about something that shapes lives, defines futures, and touches the deepest parts of who we are. And that's not something to play games with. There's a gravity here that people often ignore. They laugh off heartbreak, joke about red flags, make light of broken promises like they're just part of dating in this generation. But there's nothing light about being made to feel small by someone who claimed to care. There's nothing casual about being used, strung along, lied to, or abandoned. Truth, real truth, sobers you, it wakes you up. It forces you to stop pretending, to stop making excuses, to stop justifying things you know deep down are wrong. And the truth is this: if a man values you, it will be undeniable, not because of what he says, but because of what he does. There is no room for confusion where value is present, but most people don't want that truth. They want something softer, something that leaves wiggle room for hope, even when all the signs point to hurt. They want to believe that maybe he's just not ready, or not good at expressing himself, or going through a hard time. They'll interpret silence as mystery, inconsistency as emotional complexity, distance as depth, but all of that is just smoke. It's the kind of fog people walk through when they're afraid to face the simple, brutal truth: he's not showing up because he doesn't see you as worth the price. That's hard to hear. It should be. But if truth doesn't hurt a little, then it's probably not truth. And in a world filled with lies about love, about worth, about what you should accept or settle for, there has to be a voice that cuts through the noise and says enough. Enough of pretending this is love when it's really just selfishness dressed up as affection. Enough of giving the benefit of the doubt to someone who's shown time and again that they're not willing to lay anything down for you. Because here's the truth: when a man values something, really values it, he guards it, protects it, invests in it, prioritizes it. He doesn't play with it. He doesn't put it at risk. He doesn't treat it like it can be replaced. Look at how people treat what they treasure. You don't leave treasure out in the open, exposed to harm. You don't ignore it for days, weeks, or months, and then expect it to still be there when you feel like returning. When someone values you, they carry that responsibility like it matters. They think before they speak. They check their own behavior. They protect your name, your time, your heart, not because they have to, but because they want to. And they want to because they see you. But when truth isn't sober, when we let it get distorted, watered down, wrapped in comfortable lies, we end up accepting less than we were ever meant to carry. We start believing that maybe love is supposed to feel confusing, that maybe we're asking for too much, that maybe inconsistency is just part of the process, and little by little we settle, we stop asking hard questions, we stop expecting more, and we pay the price, not just in heartbreak, but in how we see ourselves. That's the cost of rejecting truth. That's the cost of pretending things are okay when they're not. And don't mistake anger or passion or jealousy for value. A man can fight for you without honoring you. A man can want you desperately and still not value you deeply. Wanting something isn't the same as treasuring it. A man may hate the thought of losing you, but that doesn't mean he knows how to love you. Sobriety of truth means you look past the drama, the declarations, the emotional chaos, and ask, is there consistency here? Is there character? Is there a foundation? Because when all the heat fades, when emotions settle and the newness wears off, what's left is what really matters. And what's left is what reveals the truth. We've all been taught to wait for the fairy tale, to believe that love will eventually come around, that one day he'll wake up and realize how much you mean to him. But sober truth doesn't run on fantasy. It looks at what's actually in front of you. It doesn't dress it up. It doesn't exaggerate. It tells you if he wanted to be there, he would be. If he respected you, it would show. If he valued you, you would not be doubting it every night. That kind of love doesn't hide in mixed signals. It doesn't thrive in confusion. It makes itself clear, and clarity is the fruit of value. Where there is real worth, there is no ambiguity. So if you're having to wonder where you stand, if you're constantly trying to interpret silence or decode messages or make sense of hot and cold behavior, then you're not walking in truth, you're walking in hope that's misplaced. And I say this not to shame you, but to shake you, because the truth is better than the lie, even when it hurts. It's better to be cut by truth than to be comforted by fiction, because once truth does its work, once it sobers you, it frees you. It gives you your sight back, it calls you out of darkness and into dignity, it calls you to remember that you were never meant to be an option, a convenience, or an experiment in someone else's journey. Sobriety of truth is a call to return to what is real. It's a call to stop pretending that feelings can replace actions, or that words can make up for character. It is the uncomfortable, necessary reminder that love without sacrifice is just sentiment. And if a man values you, he will not leave you in doubt. He will show up, he will choose you, not just once, not just when it's easy, but continually, intentionally, and with honor. That's the sober truth, and it's the only truth worth building your life upon. There comes a moment when you have to stop sitting quietly, nodding along, hoping that change will come just by waiting. There's a moment when someone needs to look you in the eye and ask, what are you really accepting? What are you calling love that isn't love at all? See, this is where the direct challenge to the listener comes in. It's not here to comfort, it's not here to coddle, it's here to confront, to shake something awake inside of you. Because too many people have been lulled to sleep by soft words and soft expectations, and it's destroying their ability to see clearly. The challenge isn't meant to be cruel, it's not judgment, it's a wake-up call. It's someone standing in front of you and saying, enough with the excuses, enough with the waiting around, enough with the pretending. If you've been treated like an afterthought, why are you still there? If your heart is constantly heavy, constantly uncertain, constantly aching, why do you keep calling that love? What are you clinging to that's hurting you more than it's helping you? What version of a relationship have you created in your mind that allows this person to give so little and still take up so much space in your life? We all need someone to ask the hard questions, not the polite ones. Not the easy ones, but the ones that leave you sitting in silence because you know, deep down, the answers aren't pretty. That's what this kind of challenge is. It's not just a suggestion, it's a mirror. It doesn't let you hide behind what ifs and maybe someday. It puts reality right in front of your face and says, look at how much you've given, look at how little you've received. Look at how long you've been waiting for a man to rise, hoping he'll become someone he's never even tried to be. And then it asks, why? Why do you believe this is all you deserve? Why have you silenced that voice inside of you, the one that still knows you were made for more? The one that remembers how love is supposed to feel, safe, steady, clear, sacrificial. Have you forgotten that? Have you allowed yourself to be so worn down by inconsistency that you've started calling it passion? Have you confused being chosen temporarily with being loved unconditionally? This challenge, this confrontation, it has to be direct because anything less would be dishonest. Too many people are living in the blur of almost. Almost loved, almost seen, almost respected, almost enough, and you were not created for almost. You were created for whole, but whole doesn't come without truth, and truth doesn't come without a challenge. So here it is. Stop waiting for him to become the man he should have already been. If he hasn't changed by now, it's because he doesn't want to. And if he doesn't want to, then he doesn't value you the way he should. Full stop. There's something dangerous about staying in a place where you're constantly trying to prove your worth. It eats away at your soul. It turns you into a version of yourself you barely recognize, quiet, hesitant, walking on eggshells, begging with your silence. And here's the truth that needs to be said plainly. If you have to beg to be chosen, you're not being chosen. If you have to shrink yourself to keep him around, he's not worthy of who you are. And if you keep tolerating it, then the pain you're in right now is not just his doing. It's also your permission. Let that sink in. There is no power in being a victim of your own choices. That's why the challenge comes not just to expose what he's doing, but to ask what you're doing in response. Why are you still answering the phone? Why are you still making yourself available to someone who is only half there? Why are you still giving access to someone who has never earned it? The hardest part of this conversation is admitting your role in your own pain. That doesn't excuse his failures, that doesn't minimize the wrong he's done, but it does demand that you stop placing all the blame on him when you've continued to unlock the door after he's slammed it shut time and time again. The direct challenge is about responsibility, not guilt, not shame, but responsibility, because you're not helpless, you're not stuck, you're not bound to him by fate or some mystical connection. You have the ability to walk away. You have the right to protect your peace. You have the power to say, "This is not love, and I will not pretend anymore." That kind of power is terrifying to people who have been living off your silence. But it's the kind of power you were always meant to have, and you'll never walk in it until you face the truth, not just about him, but about you. Do you value yourself enough to stop settling? Do you respect your own heart enough to stop letting it be dragged through patterns of neglect and confusion? Do you believe that clarity and commitment are your standard, not your exception? If you answered, "I don't know," that's where this challenge meets you. Right there, in the uncertainty, in the tension, in the war between what you feel and what you deserve. But here's the thing, your feelings may lie to you, but your reality doesn't. Look at the fruit. Look at the pattern. Look at what this relationship has produced in your life. Has it brought peace? Has it brought growth? Has it built you up in love or broken you down in silence? Don't flinch from that question. Don't run from it. Face it even if it hurts, especially if it hurts, because the pain is trying to tell you something. The discomfort is trying to lead you somewhere deeper, to a place where you stop waiting to be rescued and start choosing to be free. This challenge isn't meant to break you. It's meant to rebuild you, not with false hope, but with real clarity. It's meant to tear down the fantasies and the fairy tales so that what remains is solid, unshakable truth. And that truth is this: if a man values you, you won't have to chase him, you won't have to fix him, you won't have to lose yourself to keep him. You'll know without having to beg, without having to guess. So the question now is, what will you do with what you know? What will you do with what you've seen, what you've heard, what your own heart has been whispering to you in the quiet moments? The challenge has been laid before you, not to harm, but to heal. Not to shame, but to awaken, and now the choice is yours. There's a difference between a promise and a pattern. A promise is easy. Anyone can say, "I love you." Anyone can whisper sweet things when the mood is right, when the lights are low, when they want something from you. But a pattern, that's something else. A pattern doesn't lie. It doesn't change with the seasons. It reveals who someone truly is, not who they pretend to be, not who they say they might become, but who they are right now. And this is where the contrast between words and actions becomes everything, because words are cheap, but actions, those cost something. They cost time, they cost consistency, they cost selflessness, and most people are not willing to pay that price. That's why so many women end up trapped in cycles of confusion, because the words are there, that "I miss you," that "I'm trying," that "I just need time." It's a lot of talk, a lot of emotional noise, and sometimes it sounds sincere. But sincerity isn't the standard. Sacrifice is. You don't measure a man's value of you by how well he speaks when he's afraid of losing you. You measure it by what he's been doing all along, when there's no pressure, when you're not threatening to leave, when everything is calm and normal, and he still chooses to show up again and again, in small ways, in quiet ways, in consistent ways. That's what counts. But here's the tragedy: we've been conditioned to accept words as proof. We've been trained to respond to charm like it's love. He says he loves you, and you believe him, even though his behavior constantly contradicts his words. He says he wants a future with you, but you're always the one reaching out. Always the one making the plans. Always the one adjusting, waiting, hoping. You find yourself explaining away his distance, his lack of initiative, his inability to show up when it actually matters. And deep down, you know something's off. But you silence that voice with his words. You tell yourself, "But he said he loves me. He said he cares. He said he's trying." What you have to understand is that saying something and living something are not the same. Words don't cost anything to speak. You don't have to sacrifice to say, "I care about you," but to actually care, to show that care in the way you listen, the way you protect, the way you show up day after day, that costs a man something. And the ones who don't value you will never pay that cost. They'll rely on your hope, they'll use your feelings, they'll feed you just enough to keep you holding on, but never enough to actually build anything real. That's where the contrast lies, in the gap between what he says and what he does. A man who values you doesn't need to make excuses. His actions speak before he ever opens his mouth. He doesn't let you carry all the weight. He doesn't disappear when things get uncomfortable. He doesn't say one thing and leave another. He doesn't confuse you. In fact, he goes out of his way to make sure you aren't confused, because clarity is one of the purest forms of love. He shows up when he says he will. He keeps his word even when it's inconvenient and when he fails. And yes, all men fail. He owns it. He doesn't spin it. He doesn't blame you. He changes. But a man who only values the idea of you, he won't do that. He'll speak in circles. He'll say what sounds good, especially when he feels like he's losing control. He'll say he's going to change, and maybe he'll act different for a day or two. But change that doesn't last is just performance, and some people are very good performers. They've learned how to say all the right things to keep you hoping, and you want to believe them because you've invested so much. You've prayed for change, you've fought to hold things together, you've believed the best, but here's the truth. Real love isn't proven in the dramatic moments, it's proven in the day-to-day choices. And if those choices never change, then neither has he. The contrast between words and actions doesn't just expose him, it exposes what you've come to expect. If you've allowed yourself to be impressed by apologies without repentance, by promises without consistency, by affection without commitment, then the issue isn't just him. It's also what you've tolerated. And that's not said to shame you. It's said to wake you up, because you deserve more than emotional crumbs. You deserve more than being a convenience to someone who only reaches for you when it suits them. You were never meant to live in this constant tug-of-war between what he says and what he does. That's not love, that's manipulation. Real love builds, it does the hard work, it doesn't keep you questioning your value. It doesn't make you wonder where you stand. If a man says he loves you, but you're always the one calling, always the one fixing things, always the one initiating every conversation, every reconciliation, every step forward, then what you have is not mutual love. What you have is emotional imbalance, and you can't build a healthy relationship on that. So take a step back, look at the fruit, look at the actions, look at the patterns, not what he says when he's scared of losing you, but what he does when everything is normal and nothing's on the line. That's where the truth lies, not in the apology texts, not in the moments when he begs you to stay, but in the silent days, in the way he moves when he thinks you'll always be there, because that's the man he really is, not the one he pretends to be when he's about to lose you. It's not harsh to expect alignment between words and actions. It's not unreasonable to want someone who doesn't just speak love, but lives it. That's the standard. That's the difference between being played and being pursued. And until you see that contrast clearly, you'll keep getting pulled into relationships that drain you, relationships that make you doubt yourself, question your worth, second, guess your instincts, but you don't have to live in that tension anymore. You don't have to keep falling for the right words spoken by the wrong man, because love isn't a speech, love is sacrifice, love is discipline, love is consistency, and anything less than that is noise. Empty, distracting, damaging noise. So listen closely, not to his words, but to the truth that his actions have been shouting all along. There's a weight to certain choices in life, a heaviness that doesn't just go away when you ignore it. That weight is called moral gravity. And whether we want to admit it or not, it pulls on every relationship we form, every decision we make, every moment we either honor someone or take advantage of them. See, love isn't just about feelings or connection or chemistry. Love is bound up in morality, and morality is not neutral. It has standards, it has consequences, it has gravity. And when a man claims to love you but treats you in a way that lacks honor, that lacks responsibility, that lacks purity and intention, he's not just being careless, he's being immoral. That's a word people don't like anymore, immoral. It sounds too harsh, too old-fashioned, But call it whatever you want, the truth doesn't flinch. When a man steps into a relationship, he steps into a sacred space. Not sacred in the mystical sense, but sacred because it involves another human soul. A woman's heart, her trust, her time, her body, and when he does that without any sense of moral accountability, without any weight in his decisions, he reduces that sacred space to a playground for his own ego. That's not love, that's exploitation dressed up in romance. You cannot separate love from morality. You can try, you can pretend that emotions are enough, you can tell yourself that because he's hurting too, it somehow evens out. But deep down, you know it doesn't, because love without moral gravity is a house built on sand. It may look good from the outside, but one storm, one truth, one moment of silence, and it crumbles because it wasn't built on anything solid. It was built on impulse, on charm, on selfish desire masquerading as intimacy, and here's where the weight of it all comes crashing in. When a man uses your vulnerability as a means of keeping you close, while never stepping into the responsibility of that closeness, he's not just being immature. He's doing damage, lasting damage, and that has moral weight. That's what no one wants to talk about. That real harm is done when men are allowed to walk in and out of women's hearts without ever being called to account for the way they mishandle what isn't theirs to use freely. You are not a stop on someone's journey toward figuring themselves out. You are not a lesson to be learned through someone else's carelessness. That's what moral gravity confronts. It doesn't just say, was he nice to you? It asks, was he right with you? Did he treat you in a way that honors your dignity? Did he lead with integrity? Did he take responsibility for the weight of his words, his touch, his presence in your life? Or did he say the right things while doing the wrong ones? Did he demand loyalty while offering nothing but instability? Did he ask for trust while living in a way that constantly violated it? See, morality doesn't bend just because your feelings are strong. It doesn't change because you love him. Right and wrong are not subjective when it comes to how we treat people. They're not suggestions, they're anchors, and when we lose those anchors, everything else drifts. That's why so many people end up lost in relationships that once felt so meaningful, because the anchor wasn't moral, it was emotional, and emotions change, but morality doesn't. You either live with integrity or you don't. You either honor her or you use her. There's no middle ground. And if a man claims to love you but is content to lie to you, cheat on you, string you along, sleep with you with no intention of a future, play with your hopes, then what you're dealing with is not a complicated love story. You're dealing with moral compromise. You're dealing with someone who feels no real weight in how they handle you, and that is the deepest red flag there is, not the inconsistency, not the jealousy, not the arguments, but the lack of moral gravity in how he treats what is valuable. That's where the danger lies, because when someone feels no weight, they leave wreckage behind them without even realizing it, and you're the one left picking up the pieces. You're the one sitting with the silence, wondering how someone who said they loved you could treat you like you were disposable, and the answer is simple, because for him, there was no weight to it, it wasn't sacred. It wasn't real, it was just a moment, a feeling, and that kind of thinking is destructive. It's not just immature, it's immoral, because it violates the principle that love is not about consumption, it's about stewardship. You are not something to be consumed, you are someone to be cared for. A man who truly values you will feel the moral weight of your presence in his life. He will not take it lightly. He will not use you as a placeholder while he sorts out his life. He will not entertain other options while keeping you in a holding pattern. He will not ask for access to your body while refusing accountability to your future. That's not love, that's theft, and you are not here to be stolen from. If he doesn't feel the weight, then he's not ready to love you. If he can't look you in the eye and say, I am responsible for how I lead you, how I speak to you, how I protect your trust, then he hasn't grasped what it means to be a man of integrity. Because true masculinity isn't about dominance, it's about discipline, it's about restraint, it's about stepping into the moral weight of a relationship and saying, I will not dishonor what I desire. I will not pursue what I am unwilling to protect. That's moral gravity. That's what separates a man who says he loves you from one who actually does. not how loud he says it, not how often, but how much he's willing to bear the cost of loving you rightly. Is he willing to wait? Is he willing to commit? Is he willing to be transparent? Is he willing to humble himself when he fails? If not, then no matter how strong your connection feels, the foundation is hollow, because without morality, love becomes just another game, just another transaction, and you were never meant to be part of a game. You were meant to be cherished with the kind of love that trembles a little under the weight of what it's holding, the kind of love that knows this matters. And because it matters, I will walk carefully, I will speak carefully, I will choose carefully, I will not take lightly what is heavy, that's moral gravity, and until a man learns to carry it, he has no business carrying your heart. There's a kind of appeal that runs deeper than looks, deeper than charm, deeper than what you can post online or say in a moment of passion. It's not surface-level attraction, it's not just the chemistry between two people. It's foundational, it's the kind of appeal that touches the soul, the kind that says, this is someone I can build with, this is someone who sees me not as an option, not as a thrill, but as a cornerstone. That's foundational appeal. And it matters more than we're often told. The world will try to sell you on the flash. It will tell you that if he's exciting enough, if he says the right things, if he's got confidence and drive and a little bit of edge, then he's the one. It'll paint the picture of attraction that's all heat and no substance, and that can feel real for a while, until life gets hard, until your heart breaks, until you realize that emotional fireworks don't hold up in a storm. And then you're left asking yourself the hard question, what was he really built on? Because real love, the kind that lasts, is not built on chemistry, it's built on character, it's built on a man's foundation. His values, his convictions, his ability to keep showing up when the feelings wear thin and the work gets heavy. A man who values you will not just try to impress you, he will try to carry something with you. He won't ask what he can get from you. He'll ask what he can give, what he can protect, what he can build with you. And that kind of man, that kind of pursuit, doesn't come from thin air. It comes from a foundation that's already been laid in his life before you ever walked into it. That's what people miss. They fall in love with potential, with words, with charm. But potential without foundation is dangerous. It's unstable. Because if a man hasn't built anything firm in his own life, if he doesn't know who he is, what he stands for, what he's accountable to, then he will not know how to love you, not deeply, not rightly. He might feel it. He might say it, he might even believe it, but love is not sustained by belief. It's sustained by what's under the surface, what he's rooted in when the emotions fade and the demands of real life begin. Foundational appeal is not glamorous, it's not flashy, it's steady, it's reliable, and for many, that's not immediately attractive because it doesn't play games, it doesn't stir drama, it doesn't entertain your insecurities or play into your fears. It just is, it's present, it's intentional, it's grown, not grabbed, and that can be hard to appreciate when you've been conditioned to chase chaos, to confuse unpredictability with passion, to think the butterflies are the signal instead of the warning. But if you want something real, something lasting, you have to learn to recognize what truly matters. You have to look past the words and the chemistry and ask, is this man built for the weight of love? And not just the romance of it, but the responsibility of it. Is he rooted in something deeper than his own desire? Is he stable when everything around him shakes? Does he have a life, a mindset, a faith, a standard that you can align with? Not just emotionally, but morally, spiritually, directionally. Because if you build a future on a man who doesn't have a foundation, you will be the one trying to hold everything up. You will carry the weight of both people. You will parent him instead of partnering with him. You will try to fill the gaps in his character with your love, thinking that if you just give enough, forgive enough, believe enough, then somehow he'll become who you need him to be. But love doesn't transform the unready. It just exposes how deep or how shallow the roots really are. That's why foundational appeal is the kind that lasts. It doesn't burn out. It doesn't flip overnight. It doesn't run when things get real. Because it's not based on the moment. It's based on maturity. And maturity is not age. It's not experience. It's not even pain. It's the fruit of a man's internal structure. It's how he responds when no one is watching. It's what he turns to when he's overwhelmed. It's who he is when there's no applause. It's whether or not he sees love as a feeling or a covenant, a vow, a mission, a life laid down. A man with a strong foundation doesn't treat you like a project. He doesn't enter the relationship hoping to find himself. He comes knowing who he is, what he offers, and where he's going. And that security is not arrogance, it's peace, it's a covering. It's the kind of love that doesn't leave you second, guessing, comparing yourself, or competing for attention. Because he's not chasing the next thrill. He's rooted in something solid, and from that solid ground he leads with integrity. He speaks with purpose. He corrects himself. He grows without needing to be begged. That's what makes foundational appeal so powerful. It's not just that he values you. It's that he values what's sacred. He values what's real. He values the weight of commitment, the cost of love, the patience of building something that won't collapse. And he doesn't run from that. He welcomes it. He understands that love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming the kind of person who can honor someone else's heart as if it were his own. So don't be fooled by noise. Don't settle for sparks that don't lead to structure. Don't hand your future to a man who's still playing with the present. Look deeper. Ask harder questions. Watch how he lives when he has nothing to prove. And listen, not just to his words, but to the way his life testifies, because a man's foundation will always tell you what kind of future he can build, not what he says he wants, but what he's truly capable of sustaining. And if the foundation is missing, no amount of love will make up for what's not there underneath.